New archaeological evidence now shows that when the climate got tough, the Denisovans got tougher. The enigmatic ancient humans hunted birds, rodents, and even hyenas, allowing them to flourish on the Tibetan Plateau for more than 200,000 years. Indeed, the mysterious Denisovans may have overlapped with modern humans in the high-elevation environment. Incredibly, bones discovered with a 40,000-year-old Denisovan rib bone in a cave high on the plateau reveal that our big-boned relatives hunted goats, yaks, snow leopards, eagles, and other birds. Some researchers prefer to use the term dragon man rather than Denisovan to refer to this group, an important topic which will be discussed at the end of the video. In fact, the Siberian Denisovans are even more Neanderthal than Neanderthals because of their freakish ability to withstand extreme cold, and can even be considered hyper-specialized Eastern Neanderthals. Now, several recent discoveries shed light on the mysteries surrounding this ancient human population and its relationships with modern humans. What happened to the Denisovans and why they left so few archaeological remains is an intriguing story. They may have practiced cremation, which would explain why they left so few skeletal remains. The Baishiya Karst cave, located 3,200 meters, over 11,000 feet, above sea level on the eastern Tibetan Plateau, is sacred to Buddhists. The cave was home to the ancient Denisovans, whose DNA, teeth and bone fragments were also discovered in another cave in Siberia about 2,800 kilometers, 1,500 miles, away. The cave is situated in Xiahe County, China, on the northeastern edge of the plateau. It is situated on the southern side of Daliyiashan mountain at the foot of a white rock cliff. The cave is located in the Ganges basin near the mouth of the Jangla River, a tributary of the Yangtze River. The Denisovans may have only spent the warm season in the cave, living at lower elevations in the winter. Surprisingly, the cave is more than 1 kilometer, 3/5 of a mile long, and the cave's average winter daytime temperature is 8 to 9 degrees Celsius, a mild 46 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit, within 80 meters, around 260 feet of the entrance, making it suitable for habitation during the harsh winter months on the plateau. We only have vague ideas about what our close cousins, the Denisovans, looked like where they lived, and why they became extinct. But we can be certain of one thing. They had a liking for blue sheep. The remnants of these curvy-horned grazers, as well as the bones of dozens of other small mammals and birds, were discovered near a bone belonging to our big-boned cousins in the Baishiya Karst cave. The bone, one of only a few Denisovan remains discovered, provides new insight into how these people lived. Furthermore, its remarkably young age, between 48,000 and 32,000 years, indicates a potential overlap with modern humans in the region. Indeed, modern Tibetans have a gene variation which allows them to breathe at high altitudes and was most likely acquired from Denisovans. The latest findings raise the idea that this genetic inheritance occurred on the Tibetan Plateau. Denisovans are closely related to both modern humans and Neanderthals, and they interbred with both. They left their mark on modern humans, passing down several genes that helped our lineage thrive, including one that improves high-altitude survival. Aside from the finger bone, clear fossil evidence is limited to a few teeth, a skull fragment, and a jawbone. As mentioned, that jawbone was discovered in Baishiya Karst cave, high in the Himalayas, and it was described and dated to about 160,000 years ago by archaeologists a few years ago. Later, the researchers claimed that they had discovered ancient sedimentary DNA from the Denisovans in the same cave. During the most recent excavations, the researchers also discovered over 2,500 fossils, the most of which were small, damaged, and difficult to identify based on appearance. So the scientists collaborated with a molecular anthropologist who studies ancient proteins. Using a technique known as zoo archaeology by mass spectrometry, the group looked for protein sequences in bone collagen that could consistently classify specimens into distinct taxa, at least to the genus level. The majority of the remains in the cave came from blue sheep, or baral, a kind of goat that still thrives in the Himalayas. Other bones came from yaks, deer, hyenas, wolves, snow leopards, golden eagles and pheasants. Many bones exhibited cut marks and notches, which the researchers believe were caused by stone tools discovered in the same sedimentary levels. This means that Denisovans hunted an incredible array of animals and used their furs and feathers for clothing and other practical or symbolic uses. The markings on the bones indicate that the humans who processed these carcasses painstakingly removed all meat, marrow and skins before carving part of the bones into cutting tools. The diversity of prey and what the hunters did with it implies they were highly adept hunters and made full use of the resources available on their hardscrabble, high-altitude setting. This evidence expands our imagination of what they were using these animals for. They were not just thinking about food, but also about other things that would have allowed them to live at higher altitudes, such as hides for warm clothes. In fact, the climate back then was much colder than today, making their presence in the high mountains even more amazing. While going through the recovered bone fragments, researchers discovered what appeared to be a human rib fragment. Research confirmed that the bone belonged to a hominin, however it could not be identified further. So scientists investigated closer. They retrieved ancient proteins from the fossil and reconstructed the locations of over 4,500 amino acids inside them. They then employed tools to compare those sites to amino acid sequences in proteins from modern humans, Neanderthals and Denisovans. The Denisovan rib bone did not show any cut marks indicating it was processed for food or in a ritual manner, so it is a mystery how it wound up with the animal bones. The protein sequences were most similar to those of a Denisovan girl who lived in Siberia's Altai Mountains around 50,000 years ago, as well as the Denisovan jawbone from the same cave. By itself, maybe the rib bone isn't clearly Denisovan, but alongside the protein results, the ancient sedimentary DNA, and the mandible from the same cave, the evidence is convincing. The abundant animal bones with cut marks and other traces of tool-making indicate that Denisovans spent a large amount of time at this location, processing game and making additional tools. Radiocarbon dating was used by the researchers to date the findings. They also used a technique known as optically stimulated luminescence to date the neighboring sediment by estimating how long it has been since quartz fragments were exposed to light. Both approaches show that the rib belonged to a person who lived approximately 40,000 years ago. This is the youngest Denisovan bone discovered to date, which is extremely recent. The date places Denisovans well within the time frame of modern humans in the region. In fact, an open-air archaeological site located 1,300 kilometers to the southwest on the Tibetan Plateau dates from between 40,000 and 30,000 years ago and contains a form of sharp-edged, precisely knapped stone cutting tools typical of modern human handiwork. That means the Denisovans survived until modern humans appeared in the region, which makes it possible the two groups had genetic communication. Meanwhile, in central China, geologists discovered the Dali skull in a valley located between the Loess Plateau to the north and the Qinling Mountains to the south, together with other archaeological sites, which indicates a significant center of human occupancy and evolution in central China. Until the discovery of the Harbin skull, Dali was China's most complete Middle Pleistocene skull. In the initial research publication, researchers defined it as an intermediate form between Homo sapiens and Homo erectus, a probable archaic type of Homo sapiens and with traits distinguishing it from the Neanderthal lineage. Now, a new human lineage has been proposed in the Middle Pleistocene, consisting of a phylogenetic group that includes the Chinese skulls from Dali, dated to about 260,000 years ago, Harbin, dated to 150,000 to 300,000 years ago, Hualongdong, dated to 300,000 years ago, and Jinyushan, dated 280,000 years ago, as well as the Xiahe mandible, dated to 160,000 years ago, which is likely Denisovan. This clade would be distinct from the African and European human lineages, as well as sister to the Homo sapiens clade. Therefore, the Denisovan lineage would represent a closer evolutionary relationship to our species than the Neanderthal lineage. As mentioned, some researchers prefer to use the term dragon man rather than Denisovan to refer to this group, which is a more compelling terminology. Moving forward, additional research will enrich the Denisovan record over a period of around 200,000 years in many dispersed sites throughout Asia. This includes looking into their relationships to other fossils like Harbin, Dali, and others. There are still many unanswered questions. Are they synonymous with Denisovans? It seems likely. This should also include research on their interesting interbreeding with some Homo sapiens populations in East and South Asia, which left traces in approximately 5% of the genomes of some modern-day groups in island Southeast Asia, particularly in Papua New Guinea.